Facebook has gotten a lot stricter with their ad platform recently, and they have kind of a specific way about going and doing their review process that decides if you're going to get approved or or you stay approved or become suspended or get suspended. Which it's not just an automated system, if you were wondering about that, which a lot of you guys probably realize that. But with that, they have a process. It isn't random. There's parts of it that are random, but there is a structure there, 100%. The more you know about that structure, the more you know how to deal with not getting suspended. It's just like if you're going to war, if you know your enemy's positions, what they're going to do ahead of time, obviously, now you have much better chance of beating them, which in this case we're not trying to beat Facebook, but in a way we're trying to beat Facebook at their people that are looking to just suspend people all day long to stay off of their radar, basically. So, and there's a process of which I want you to know what the process is so you can actually defend yourself, have an actual strategy to not get suspended once your campaigns are working. What other of our clients at our PPC firm have been doing have taught me what I'm going to tell you here, what it takes to actually stay out of there, which is more so like a filter that you get stuck in if your account gets suspended. And I'm going to explain how not to get stuck in that filter after now. And when I teach you how the filter actually works, you can use the other information I give you on how to avoid that filter. So, and how that filter works per se is they got different teams at Facebook in their reviews department that sees if something should be suspended or not suspended. Obviously in the reviews department they have people that make policy, and then there's some people that just enforce policy. And the enforcement of the policy and that specific sub-team itself, they don't have time. I mean, if you think about it from Facebook's perspective here, they don't have time to audit everything all the time. They try to use software as much as they can, but with that, it's not like Google where they can scan for keywords and text on your ads and stuff like that. You have a visual ad, it's usually an image. There's text on the ad that they could try to scan, but they have to have humans look at stuff for the most part to catch most of it, because there's a visual element that the algorithms can't basically decipher what is the intention or meaning behind that ad. And when you send people to a landing page, it's the same thing. So there's a little bit of text there, but you can't really get the full meaning of that landing page a lot of times that you're taking people to without actually having somebody that's cognizant of what's going on, actually a human, in other words, fully looking at that page and understand what the intention or meaning of that advertiser was when they made that landing page in which they're advertising with or trying to advertise with on Facebook. So the first kind of filter that you go through is the bots that are going to check for like offensive keywords in certain categories, for instance, the beer bug that we recently had in 2019 come out. They'll look for keywords related to that. And a lot of times, if it's bad enough, it'll just flag it outright with no human intervention. If you're talking about vulgar, like sexual, made to arouse terms like that, then you can get suspended right away. Other times where there's other categories, it will be flagged for somebody, a human reviewer, to go look at, and then they will make the decision whether or not it actually should get you the ad suspended or the whole account suspended, depending on how egregious it is itself. And then from there, though, what people don't understand is there's also straight up humans reviewing stuff itself, which has nothing to do with automation. So there's automation and there's humans, human teams, and then automation, call it teams, that go through and check for policy violations. The human teams itself, there's only so much. They love to try to do whatever they can with automation because it's cheap to do. Whereas the humans, it's very expensive to do, even if they outsource this stuff overseas and everything, which they do, as does Google and other people at other ad networks. They all do it because it's expensive to have stuff reviewed. You become a bigger and bigger target depending on what you're doing, the characteristics of how you're advertising or how you are as an advertiser. Namely, that is how much you're spending. Okay? So how much you're spending gets you to a different reviewer, and therefore you can actually play a game where you're going to navigate around the reviewers depending on how you set up your stuff to advertise, which I'll get to in a second here. Facebook has their own process to go through to get an account unsuspended once it's already gotten suspended. However, there's no actual guarantee that what they tell you at Facebook when you are suspended to get unsuspended, you're dealing with finicky people. There's a lot of people who they hate their life, they hate their job. On top of it, they had a bad day. You put through your information about why you shouldn't be suspended, how this is a total false alarm, and you totally get cut off anyway because that person was just basically an asshole. With that, once that final call comes, generally speaking, once you have asked for help too many times, you get, and ultimately, or if it's bad enough on the first time, there's a point in essence, in other words, there's a point of no return. You get somebody on a bad day, wrong person, which 99 other people out of 100 would have got you back onto Facebook. You get a person who's just an asshole, you're done. You can't advertise on Facebook again. Therefore, which obviously we talked about just having a Facebook campaign that goes down, that you're relying on a majority of your sales that are coming in from that Facebook account can totally just take down your entire business. With that, you should try to stay away from getting hit in the first place by taking action, just for the reason that I label for you. And with how much time, like I said, it takes to actually set up and find an ad and find a landing page that works, usually you've got to test a few things. The average person I run across has to test a few things. They waste money on each of those things. They test 4 or 5 different sales funnels. They find one that works. Again, that one that works, you're looking for, like, let's say a 5-to-1 return, $5 of revenue to $1 of advertising, and they get a 3-to-1, and they're like, okay, I can work with this. Whereas the rest of them I tried, they were like 1-to-1. And then you still got to run your ads for 3 months or so just to get that 3-to-1 up closer to a 5-to-1. But they do it knowing that once it gets to a 5-to-1, I can scale this up, and whatever I spend up front to learn how to do this right, I'm making that back in a month. Literally speaking. And that's how you should think about PPC in general, by the way. If you're thinking about it as, oh, I did it, it's not paying for itself, it doesn't work, fuck this shit, this stuff is a ripoff, you're going to be like all the rest of the people, the so-called losers out there who says that Facebook ads don't work or other PPC doesn't work. It's not about, unless if you have an offer that's in demand, we'll just leave it at that. It's about how you do it. You just got to figure out the offer that's going to work. And just saying it doesn't work is a cop-out. So, respectively, you go in it with the right mindset. You go in it as if I don't make this work, I'm going to die. And what you should be wanting to do if you're going to try to get Facebook to work, because it's challenging, you will make it work. And then you got to protect your assets. So the key is, if you're in a sensitive space, i.e., I mentioned the beer bug, like in the dieting space, the make money online space, or business opportunity space, or other spaces where Facebook has notes on what to do for your category, i.e. stay away from, like if you were selling fireworks or something like that, they'll, in their review policy, which you can go and look this up, they'll have, you know, sensitive categories, and then they'll have stuff you basically can't do, and there's some categories you can do it, but there's information on what to avoid. If you're in any kind of those kind of spaces, you definitely need to take this information and strategy I'm giving you here to stock, because there's obviously a very, very high chance that suspension is going to happen to you eventually. Once you eventually take your, at some point, we'll just say, at some point of running that campaign and trying to create a scalable campaign for your business through Facebook. So with that, what is it that you actually do? It's much safer if you're going to run your ads, if you're in one of these sensitive categories, unless it's if you have a boring business like I'm a foundation repair company. I will admit, you're not going to have to worry about anything there. You're not going to get suspended for, you know, what what Facebook thinks is kind of over the edge in terms, or too edgy. And if you're anything halfway questionable, you absolutely do want to do this. You want to run multiple accounts, multiple Facebook accounts for your business, each on a lower budget than the one account that you had before, which was on originally a much higher budget. So instead of spending $5,000 a month on Facebook ads, if you're in a sensitive category, you're better off having 3 accounts at $1,500, you know, like $1,600 a month or whatever that comes out to. You split that budget in thirds, have 3 accounts, and have each one of those accounts set up under a different billing, different name, different everything. And if you could do it, a different domain. If you're just generating leads, I highly recommend just setting up a whole new website. You can clone all, you know, basically take the exact same site design you had before, change the colors slightly. Facebook won't, through all their power that they have, won't be able to identify that these are all for a business that was basically the same business running it all. And even if it was, by the way, it's not against the policies to have different accounts for different entities. So if you wanted to go totally safe with it, you'd register 3 entities, of which those entities, the only thing they own is a Facebook ads account, and it's all legit. And then, yeah, again, clone your website. There's good tools like HT Track out there where you can clone a website in 5 minutes, have the exact same design on a new site, on a new domain, copying all the web files, and then you can basically take the ad, don't use the exact same text, but the image that you have is pretty much the same because you change it slightly. You get my point. Change it just enough so that the review bots that would look at your stuff would think that it's actually different, and get those 3 of those babies going for your business. So that for the sole reason here, well, not sole reason, I should say, there's 2 main reasons why we do this. The first of which is just to have some redundancy in what we're doing. In case, even the review bots are very unpredictable on how things go. Same thing with Google. One account that does one thing gets disapproved, whereas another account that does the same exact thing doesn't get disapproved. One will get approved, one will get disapproved. Same exact things being done. I see this all the time. I got clients even that comes to me and say, hey, I want to do this. How do they do it? And I tell them, just because they haven't gotten caught yet doesn't mean they're not going to get caught, because that's the real answer to it. But if you take the approach of what I'm saying is, and just take a whack-a-mole approach with what you're doing, and set up multiple accounts for multiple entities, just even make it if you want to be totally legit about it, then if you have a problem, you got backups. You may not even use the other ones. You just advertised a little bit, know that they're going to make money, pause them, and then you have other ones on deck. But in reality, for Facebook specifically, I recommend running them all, because ultimately Facebook does a lot better based upon the data, like more so than like Google. But respectively with that, then you won't, if your one account goes down, you won't have to like run the new accounts for a while before they get up to speed as much as the first account was, because they don't have the same spend that the first account had, and then you have some downtime between the first one going down and the other, two that you activated now, to get your sales back up to what they were when the first one went down, which most businesses, if they're relying heavily on one source of traffic for their sales and for their marketing, they can't take more than a 20% hit on their revenue when they have a ton of overhead. And it's not just you running the business. You have 10 staff or whatever, 10 trucks going out, whatever. So running them all at the same time is a better idea in terms of specifically being in position to protect yourself from ever having a lapse in your revenue, because of an account suspension. Obviously, if you have 3 accounts, you split the budget you would have up between those 3 accounts. Technically, there's a drawback in that one account will have as much data to operate from, because the more data you have, the better the results typically get. With the lookalikes algorithm targeting, but even with you're targeting static individual audiences, it's the same way. The algorithm figures out of the people in that audience which ones they should send you to, or send people to, or send your ad to, and other ones that are in that same audience shouldn't actually see your ad. What demographics within that audience shouldn't see your ad because they do some optimization you don't see. And then obviously if one account goes down, you can just up the budget on those 2 ones that are left and probably get about whatever you got on the first account. And this is also though why I say really if you're in a sensitive borderline category, you should do this. And if you're just a normal, boring, everyday, non-controversial as far as Facebook is concerned space, just run the one account because you want to condense all your spend into one account so that you have the most results the soonest. But if you're in the sensitive space, you have that insurance, you have the 3 accounts, you won't have as much results as quick, but you'll be totally immune from one account getting hit through the review algorithm that, again, might do one thing with another account and totally do something else. And because it's very inconsistent, you can assume that the bot reviewers, they won't hit all 3 accounts at once. So if you're wondering, Corey, why would I do that? Because they would just all go disapproved if I'm doing similar things. That's not the case at all. I've seen this happen before. It actually happens quite often like this, so that your multiple other accounts are fine, but the original account or one of the accounts get hit. So then you can just up the budget on the other 2. Maybe start one other account, get that one farm, going to add to your stable of accounts, and eventually maybe another account gets suspended while you still have 2 other ones going. Even if you could get even if the account's suspended and you think you can get it reapproved, having those 2 other accounts on deck so that as soon as you get suspended, immediately you can just up the budget on the other 2 accounts, and there's like basically a half a day worth of hiccup on your sales. That can be a godsend if you're really relying on those sales. But anyway, for the fact that you use these other accounts as a kind of an insurance program to always have an account that will be running full the time for you all the time that you can rely on, is only one major reason why you use multiple accounts. The other reason is, going back to what I was going to talk about before, is the fact that there's different layers of review you go through at Facebook in their review department. So what do I mean by that? So when you're advertising on Facebook, let's say you start out with a $10 a day ad budget on your Facebook account. Okay, you've got something going. For instance, if you're in the dieting space, one thing that you always can't do that people that get hit all the time trying to do is having before and after photos showing somebody before they went on this supposed diet plan or for a diet pill or whatever, and then after, and they'll have like a split. This is like the number one thing that these dieting pitches have. This is the before and after. You're supposed to say, wow, right? And which really works, and that's why they always use it. But Facebook thinks that's like marketing crack, basically, and therefore they don't want people to do it because it would encourage other people that are not trying to go so in your face to have to start to do it, because that's the new standard now. Same thing on Google. And so specifically with that, they'll basically they'll do that. They'll get suspended. And well, should I say, taking a step backward here, my point I was trying to make was, I got a bit off track there. You're selling a diet pill, right? You set up your campaign. You use a before and after on your ad, or in a lot of cases it can just be your landing page, and the landing page will get, the ad campaign will get disapproved because you used just an before and after on your landing page, not only your ad. Yes, that's the case. So you have to think about strongly what you're doing on both sides, the ad and the landing page. But you have something that gets the ROI that you were intending. You're going, yes, I finally found a Facebook ad that's going to work here. It gets a 5-to-1 return that I'm looking for to be profitable after all my expenses running this ad. Let's crank it up a notch. You crank it up a notch, you get to $100 a day, everything is going fine, you're thinking about how you're going to spend all that new money, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, your account is suspended or whatever. And then you have to go through, hopefully, and appeal it and get it resuspended. But like I said, who knows who you're going to get that's going to actually be the reviewer. There's good people, there's bad people. And what's the reason for this? Okay, the reason for this is, I was laying the foundation for this before, but you have your bots that are going to check for stuff like certain keywords and stuff as much as what a bot can do to check your ads and landing pages all on its own. Try to save Facebook money. Then there's human reviewers, because they can't, there'd be too many people getting away with stuff if they didn't have human reviewers. So they have to manage what money they spend on reviewing stuff so that they don't go overboard or start losing an egregious amount of money. So then what they do is they try to optimize where they're spending their human resources at for the review process itself. And they've dictated, and which makes perfect sense, why would they're going to invest most of their human resources on the ad accounts, which has the most potential to do the most damage if something bad were to, or malicious were to occur by one of their advertisers. So what that means is the more you spend, the more they're going to focus their resources on trying to catch you doing something there specifically, versus somebody who doesn't have quite the potential to reach as many people, therefore affect as many people, which makes perfect sense. But how does that, or what does that mean in reality, how this actually physically works? Their system, I don't know, I haven't seen their policies directly, but we have just seen this ourselves. You have a campaign that works at a $10 a day budget, a $100 a day budget. It may also work, but when you get to a $1,000 a day budget, that's big time as far as what Facebook is concerned. And then it gets kicked into a new level of scrutiny, and then it gets disapproved. So whereas it would have been fine, whereas it was fine, and all practical purposes, it would have been fine forever if that person never got as greedy, so to say, to scale it past $100 a day. They would have never had a problem. But when they started to say this thing works, let's pedal to the metal, baby, and they went to $1,000 a day, they got a different reviewer, which is a more sophisticated reviewer. Maybe it's somebody in the U.S. now versus overseas, and they got hit with a suspension. So realistically, and they're trying to, again, like I said, allocate the money that they spend reviewing accounts. More so, the most money goes to the people that are the big time spenders, and less of it gets spent on the smaller spenders, and that goes all the way down in a progressive basis. So the people that spend the least get the least. Those who spend a little bit more gets a little bit more resources. The people that spend a little bit more gets even a little bit more resources, and it just keeps going, and there's layers to it. So if you spend $1 a day, maybe it's just a bot that checks your stuff and that's it. At $10 a day, maybe you get a offshore person in India or the Philippines looking at your stuff, or Pakistan or whatever. At $100 a day, maybe you get a outsourced contractor in the U.S. that is like a work from home person, which they have, as does Google, that will review stuff from their home for like 15 bucks an hour and review stuff like that. Maybe when you get to $1,000 a day, you get an in-house employee somewhere at Facebook looking this stuff over that has the most experience with this stuff, that they've spent, you know, the most time doing this. They've seen the most stuff people have done to hide certain things. So if you're trying to be tricky, you will get by with stuff, you know, on the lower end with people that aren't as invested into the process or just not as knowledgeable, whatever. Whereas you go higher up the spend scale, the more scrutiny it's going to get, because you got, you know, higher level people, we'll just say, and I'm not saying that from like a intelligent standpoint, but just people that are more experienced, we'll just say, at catching things. So with that said, if you're trying to do something to you're skating kind of on thin ice, and you're trying to get to the point where you can use, for instance, going back to our previous example of the before and afters, what you can do, if you can, like maybe I want to use those, and on your landing page, one way to kind of get around it is to have a button that says see our before and afters, and then you have to click a button and then it'll show. Whereas somebody that's not spending very much time, because they're at the lower end of the spend scale reviewing your landing page, they don't realize that there's a button where you have to see the before and afters. Whereas somebody who's spending more time on it and seeing this kind of thing, they do catch it. What you're kind of forced with in that situation is realizing and having to figure out how hard or how much am I going to push the budget up, given I know I'm going to get more and more scrutiny the more I'm spending. That would be one thing. Or you can use what I just told you as a possibility, or what you should do anyway for insurance on your account. Run several accounts, running each account on a smaller budget so that you stay overall at a smaller level of scrutiny overall from your company. So just because you have 3 accounts doesn't mean you're going to get the same cumulative scrutiny as one account. That's not the case at all. You may have, you know, the amount of scrutiny on a $1,000 a day account versus $10, $100 a day accounts. The scrutiny might be 50 times as high, because when you get to $1,000 a day, that's where you really get hit with a lot of scrutiny. By the way, that's kind of the threshold. Once you get there, they really check your stuff out. Then beyond that, 10,000 a day. I mean, it's kind of the same as 1,000 a day, as per what I've seen. I don't have experience with people spending 50,000 a day or anything like that so much to really comment on it, but that's kind of the breakup. Most of the time, if you're doing something really bad, you might get away with it on 10 bucks a day, whereas 100 a day, you'll kind of get caught out. And if you're doing something kind of a little bit crossing the line, 100 a day, you'll be fine. But when you get to 1,000 a day, that's where you might see the problem. Just to put things into perspective a little bit for you, though, as well. But with all that said, like I said, there's 2 major reasons why you want, if you're in one of these sensitive categories, potentially, 2 reasons why you want to use multiple accounts. One, so you can quickly just switch, shift to having the other accounts take on the extra budget that you know you need to be spending at any time to maintain your people with sales leads and sales and whatever. And the other thing is to make sure your overall setup is not going to be scrutinized heavily at any point, because once you want to scale your ad account more, you can just set up another account, put a budget on that account, and now you've scaled what you've built in terms of a sales funnel, ad, and landing page combination that works. You're getting more from it, and then you're not taking any additional risk with the additional scrutiny you're going to see by having now your spend overall higher on any one account, because they don't know about all the other accounts you're running. They only know you have this one account, and then know I can only spend so much time scrutinizing this, because Facebook said we can only spend 30 seconds reviewing the landing page for somebody who spends what this account spends, and that's all I'm going to do. Versus once you spend $1,000 a day, we can spend 5 minutes reviewing this, and it's a more sophisticated, experienced person, while we're at it or whatever. So those are the two reasons why you would want to have multiple accounts. And yes, there's a legit way of doing it. Of course, it's not legit from the standpoint of if you create multiple entities that each one of them own just a Facebook ads account, which you could own other things, but practically speaking, so that you have different entities, so you could have different bank account cards, which, by the way, if you have different entities, I recommend doing that anyway, because then your accounts really aren't linked. The company name's different, the card name's different, everything's different. There's no reason they're going to link all those accounts together, because once it is linked, that's the time when one account can take out all the rest anyway. But realistically, if it's legitimately other companies, which you have a main company that owns all the smaller ones that own all the account assets, then respectively, you got something that's going to really realistically serve you well long term. Something that's a lot more rock solid than just one account that may or may not work when, not even today, but Google, or keep saying Google here, Facebook changes their policies later on down the road. What you worked one day now doesn't work. Or, and whatever, and then at least if they are going to change their policy, if you had 5 accounts running instead of 1, when one account goes down, you could find out why that one went down, and then you could fix it on the other 4 before Facebook's reviews process and their department actually catches on that the other accounts have it as well, so that, again, you don't wreck anything that you've figured out and built for yourself, finding that sales funnel that would work, and also not having it potentially take out your company because you were relying on those sales coming in, and now everything's gone. It's either you have it or you don't, versus I have most of it and I need to work on replacing the additional 20% that just got taken out, which is not that big of a deal. So anyway, that's everything I wanted to share with you today about how to not get your Facebook ad accounts banned / suspended, whatever you want to say there. I have first of all, I really appreciate if you'd like and or consider subscribing to this channel here. Like the video if you like the video, so that it would help other people find this video that may have the problem with Facebook accounts, how to stay away from having an issue. But also, if you could subscribe to the channel, you're going to see a lot more content about PPC campaign strategies, stuff that's going to make you money, not just how to avoid losing money, but how to actually make money, as I come out with several videos a week just specifically on that topic. And this is the best channel you're going to find for PPC strategy on YouTube. I created it because there isn't any other channels that have content like the content that we have on this channel. I also have, by the way, a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns the way that I build them on Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, whatever, to guarantee our clients results on our campaigns, in which, if you want to see how things are done more on a step-by-step basis, you can find good information there as well. It might be of use to you as well. With that said, if you have any questions about anything I talked about, anything to do with Facebook ad suspensions, leave me a comment down below. I'll get back to you within usually a few days' time, but I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel directly. That said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was of use to you, and I hope to see you on my next video that's coming out in the next couple days with another great PPC strategy / topic that will help you make more money with your campaigns and get to the next level in your business with PPC. Thanks. See you then.